We're live.
Yep.
Hey, it's Chris Homestead the Hard Way, and this is video 2 on the Super A Farmall. Now, what we're going to cover today, right quick, is we just got in the shop. I got the hood off of it, and we're kind of checking it out to see what's wrong with it. First thing we've seen is the gas tank is cable rust. We're going to do a video later on how to clean that at home. One way you can do it anyway. We'll do a walk around on it in a minute, but the first thing I want to cover is fire and ignition. We want to see if it's firing. Something really important. These tractors are cranking in gear. I mean, this one won't ever crank, but it can take off. Always make sure they're in neutral. Be kind of OCD about that, making sure it's in neutral. Because anybody can walk by and bump it in gear, playing with it. Just cause it was in neutral when he walked away from it the last time, don't just assume it's still in neutral. They will crank in gear and keep it. That's important. We're gonna check the coil and the points first. Somebody should place the pull switch on this one with a key. Come up here and let's show them. Okay, this is point, still points type ignition. This is your coil, distributor, cap, wires. Firing order on these tractors is 1342, and there's no shame in numbering stuff, especially if you're not exactly sure what you're doing. And if you do know what you're doing, it's a whole lot easier to number it when you go to put it back. There's no fun with it. You check the coil with the switch on 12 volt. Now this tractor has been converted to 12 volt, and it is backwards. They did not switch the coil when they did it. But on 12 volt, the power wire coming from the switch, you go to the positive side of the coil, the negative side to the points on 12 volt. On 6 volt, it's positive ground. It's going to be negative side of the coil to the switch, positive side to the points, because the points are your ground. They're just interrupted ground is how they work. And we have fire to the coil. Now, if the points are working, when you spin it over, this light will flash. Let me get it where you can see it. See, the light's not flashing. So that means the points are not working. I haven't even pulled the cover off of this one yet to see what the points look like, but I'm sure they're atrocious. And something I'll talk about real quick while we're doing it, electronic ignition. I'm not a big fan of electronic ignition. We have a lot, we work on a bunch of these tractors, a bunch of them. It's a big part of what I do for a living. And we have a lot of them come in that have had electronic ignition installed in them that just won't work right. And we end up taking it back out and putting points back in. Okay, come around here if you can. I'm gonna put some light on it. She's gonna have to move in close for the camera, don't let her make you see sick. There's your points, and they don't look terribly bad. They don't look that good either, but they don't look terrible. And if you'll see, that shaft is square.
Yep. Put them on focus. There you go.
You see the R opening and shut. Now the gap on these is somewhere between 20 and 25 thousandths. Your point gap can make a big difference on, it actually changes the engine timing if you've got the gap too close or too far. Okay, we've got fire to the points. And we don't have fire. Okay, come here. I got to show them this. Now I know the camera work's not the best in the world, but there's no good way to do this really and film it. You may need a camera right here. We don't have GoPros, but this side of the point should be hot. This side should not. If this side of the points is lighting the light up, that means there's a problem in here somewhere. This plate down here is not supposed to be hot. We've got good fire to the points. They're not in great shape. A lot of people are scared of a points distributor. I've grown up with them. I've messed with them my whole life. They don't bother me a bit. A lot of times I can make points run. We work on some tractors sometimes, especially old Ferguson stuff, like old Massey stuff, back when it was Massey Harris, that you can't even get points for anymore. I think a pony. I think the last one I messed with was a Massey Harris pony. And I actually took a set of points for something else and cut the pads off of them. And TIG welded them together and made a set of points. We have a lot of trouble with electronic ignition. We talked about that a while ago. I'm not sure why. One of my Ferguson's has electronic ignition that somebody else put in it works fine. We get a lot of these Farmalls that just doesn't work. It gives trouble, it quits, and when it quits, there's a set of points pretty much everywhere. I keep 3 or 4 sets in stock, and every parts store around here has a set. You know, the condenser goes back. Oh, never do. Like I said, the gap somewhere around 25,000, somewhere in that area. Hey, y'all got to excuse my shop. We've been wide open here. I haven't had time to clean anything up like we should have. Now, I'm fixing to show you a trick that'll really help you on these old Farmalls. There's 2 things that'll do that are really worth going. They make a Phillips head screw to replace these flathead screws in this distributor. Oh, and something else I want to tell you. Do not take the distributor out and put points in. We run into that a lot. People take the distributor out and put points in. Then to get it back, there's a couple of different places you can get the teeth off on this thing. And they'll do it or die. They'll take the distributor out. And they can't get it back timed right. And I've got to go there in time. Like I said, you get it off here, you get it off in here. It's just annoying. But Phillips head screws are a definite plus. And I guess you can't see any of what I'm doing, and I don't know exactly how to do it besides telling. But if you've got to take these points all the way out, this magnetic pan under here will catch them, because you'll drop that screw 25 times for you. If it's a flat tip, you'll drop it. I don't know how many times before you get it back in there. Don't let that bother you, that's just normal. But especially if you're doing this in the edge of the field, which is where I have to do it most of the time. It'll bore you to death. And I'm trying not to drag this out. This is all real time. You're watching me do this as I'm doing it. We got him set at 25. And some tractors, I will tell you, run better out of factory specs. Some tractors run better with them set at 18. Some tractors run better with them set at 22. If you have a dwell meter and put a dwell meter on it, it'll tell you more than really anything. Now, I don't know if it'll work right here because it doesn't always. But sometimes you can check the coil just like this. It's a good way to get shot. Let's put the switch on. Sometimes you can just reach down and break these points. See it? Come here, let me show. Everybody always tries to check coils. But the easiest way to do it, if you don't know if your coil's bad, see that coil firing? You're gonna have to be back here where I'm at.
Let me go to the other side.
No, you're gonna have to be right here where I'm at. Because it's up in that hole.
Oh.
Bear with us, folks. We're not professional camera people.
Let's see. Try it now. Oh yeah, we can see it.
All you gotta do is break those points with your finger. If the coil's any good, it'll fire. 90% of the time. So we know the points are breaking, we know the coil's firing. A lot of times these things have these old make your own spark plug wires on them. They're always a problem. There's a coil wire down here somewhere. I'm at the center of that thing. But that's probably the majority of the problem right here. Ends come off the coil wire. And it's come off and gone. But this might be good enough to see the coil. The coil is firing. If the coil is firing, we'll have to put a cap on it and a few other things anyway. Alright, we got the coil firing just that fast with points that are God knows how. Just a little bit of sandpaper and readjust. Points are nothing to be scared of. I see a lot of YouTube videos on you've got to change your tractor to electronic ignition. And I don't know that I agree with that. There is something to the points you buy now are cheap. They're made in China. They don't hold up like they used to. When we were really using these tractors to farm with, you didn't put one set of points in them a year. You might have to put 2 sets in them nowadays just in the garden. But they're nothing to be scared of. They're really simple. They're easy to handle. And this one, like I said, the coil is on it backwards. I'm gonna switch that around in a minute and try to do something about this. I don't know if I have a cat in the road, but something I do want to tell you right quick. Now this was everything for a normal service. A normal service is usually changing the oil, checking all the fluids, blowing out the radiator, checking the adjustment on the clutch, adjusting the brakes, and setting the points or replacing the points. A lot of times, since most of these tractors only get serviced once a year, sometimes once every other year, depending on who owns it, because they don't get no hours put on them. In other words, this here is an oil filter, set of points, a resistor. The RU11 resistor is the resistor you use. And I'll touch on that real quick. I'm not trying to ramble. But in the old days, when you converted one of these tractors to 12 volt, all you did was bypass the voltage regulator. You put the alternator on it, wire the alternator in. You have to use a diode on the 3-wire Delco to keep it so it'll cut off. We've talked about that in another video. You took the coil, switched the wires on the coil, you switched the wires on the amp gauge, and you put this RU11 Dodge resistor in the hot wire going to the coil. And it worked fine. It worked fine for years. Kept the same ignition system, all 6 volt with the 12 to 6 volt resistor. For some reason, the last 10 or 12 years, they give trouble. And I've tried using the 12 volt internal resistor coil that was supposed to resist it to 6 volts down internally. It doesn't do it. The only thing I found that works right is use this resistor with a 12 volt Dodge coil that matches this resistor. It'll work. If you use the internally resisted coil, it doesn't do quite right. It burns the points up a lot. And that's a lot of the trouble people have with points is they're putting 14 volts when the alternator's charging to a set of 6 volt points, it just fries. I think that may be where a lot of that electronic ignition comes around. But even my tractor with the electronic ignition, I didn't do it. Another mechanic down the road did it, really good mechanic. He's got a resistor in it with electronic ignition. But enough, the oil and filter, set of points, a new resistor, and something that says fuel component. I have no idea what that could possibly be. Oh, that's a carburetor kit. It's 1306 carburetor kit. So that's putting a set of points in it, rebuilding the carburetor and servicing it. The parts won't be $91. And that's kind of a lot to be doing to this tractor, really. But it's normally something you have to do every year. Every year you have to rebuild the carburetor. Every year you have to put a set of points in it. But it's only $91.94 for the parts. They're pretty cheap to operate, it's kind of my point. Now we're going to do a little walk around on this one, keep from trying to ramble and show you everything that's wrong with it. We already said the gas tank was ready. And we're going to try to clean that here. The alternator is not installed properly. But it's on there, it's not moving. The belt's a little ragged, but it's working. So we may not mess with it, interest of money, you know. The manifolds had the gas. Now, if you couldn't get one, I could fix that. I could worry with it about a half a day, and I believe I could fix it, but it's in terrible shape. And I don't know if somebody's tried to fix it before or exactly what's going on there. The carburetor has been just like this with this nipple screwed in it, no fuel hose on it for years, I think, best I'm gathering. There is no fuel bowl on the bottom of the tank. I don't know if she can show you. Like I said, just be patient with the bad camera work because there's really, there, you see it there. We don't really know what we're doing in this situation, how to film it. You see how bad the tank is. We've got a tire that sit there and dry rotted on the bottom where it was flat. The top of the gas, the radiator is bent. Something's happened here, it's bent. That's got the wrong cap on it. I don't even know what that cap goes to, but it's not for this tractor. It looks like a fuel cap off like a 574 International or something. But we were putting it in the shop. We didn't have any funny noises at the rear end. We didn't have any wheels wobbling. All right, it spins over good. It's not stuck. The seat's not right. Not even close to right. And it's got a spray can paint job. I know this tractor looks good, but it's really just kind of a spray bomb paint job. I don't know if it was even, I don't know how good it was pressed, but it don't look bad. And it's got really good rubber on it, if other than that dry rotted space on the other one. It's got the wrong buffer on it. But we're gonna get it straightened out, we're gonna get it running, and maybe that help you with the ignition. If you have any questions, anything you want to know about these tractors while I'm working on it, put them in the comments, I'm glad to answer them. And I think that'll about cover it. What I showed you on those points will work on anything with points in it, from a 2-ton Ford truck to a lawnmower, really. And the way I showed you, check that coil will work with anything with points in it. But I see a lot of people overcomplicating checking coils. You know, like I said, all you got to do is get something up there to jump the fire to and open and shut those points. If the coil's any good, it's going to fire. So there is a condenser in there with the points. And the condenser, if they go bad, it will do all kinds of stupid stuff. It'll sound like a junk tire sometimes when the condenser goes bad. And if you've got the points right and you're still not getting a spark, it's probably the condenser. This wire here, which this one is awful ragged, this wire has something to do with it too. If this wire is not letting current go through it, but you checked all that, right here can get rusty, not making a connection. There's an isolation washer here. If it's touching the, remember when I showed you to make sure the bottom of the distributor won't hot? If this wire is touching here, it can cause trouble. The wrong coil can cause you a lot of headaches. But it's all real simple. And we've been through it and been through it and been through it. So most problems you can run into with it, I've already seen. You know, like the coils, matching the coil up with the points is import it. And like I said, after they're converted to 12 volt, the coil that the tractor calls for is not the right one. But maybe that'll help you out. And I appreciate you watching. And this is video 2. Video 3 will come about after we round some more parts up. And y'all have a good one.